All right, so we mentioned in our last video when we were at Magnolia Springs that we were on an extended trip, extended weekend trip, and that we were going to be going to Hamburg State Park. Things didn't go exactly as we had planned. Part of the reason why I'm doing this here now by myself without Nancy Lee, I'll explain here in just a few minutes. Beautiful park. We weren't able to take full advantage of it. I'm going to show you the best of what we had about this, the best of what we were able to show in our limited amount of time that we had there. And then I'm going to do a separate video about how things kind of went south and kind of how we adapted and adjusted to that. So I hope you enjoyed the little bit that we're able to put together on this. So as I mentioned in our last video at Magnolia Springs, the kids had 5 days out of school for a 5-day weekend that they call winter break. So we decided we'd take kind of an extended trip into Georgia, visit 2 different parks. Magnolia Springs, the weather was perfect. It was a beautiful park. Things kind of started going south as we were leaving the park. Shortly after we finished recording that video, when we were dumping all of our tanks, went to go dump the black tank and the handle came off in my hand. Yeah, oops, oh no. Then as we were leaving, I realized that I was getting no signal on my brake controller, so I was having 0 trailer brakes. I was like, okay, now what? About 15 minutes before we got to Hamburg State Park, Claire got sick. So we had just a series of issues that happened as we got to Hamburg State Park. What we decided to do is we went ahead and got to Hamburg State Park. Luckily, it was all kind of rural back roads where I was able to slow down and drive carefully without the trailer brakes. We made it there fine. That wasn't an issue. It was Saturday afternoon. No local RV places are going to be open. So I had to run to Augusta, which is about an hour away, to go get a black tank valve. Luckily, we were there early enough in the day. I already had an idea what was going on with the brakes. So I spent most of Sunday fixing the things that needed to be fixed. Claire was sick. And then Sunday afternoon, it started to rain. So between all of that, we didn't really get to experience Hamburg State Park the way that we had hoped we were going to be able to. It's a beautiful park. Show off Site 20 here at Hamburg State Park. This is probably one of the premier sites in this park because it sits out on this point. You see the neighbors on this side. Neighbors over here. Obviously it is a pull-through site out on the water. Now this is 30 amp. Looks like there's actually 2 30 amp plugs, and I'm having an issue with the 15 amp breaker. Normally I plug my lights in the 15 amp side, but that's not working. You come down, see they got a grill, metal leg normal picnic table, and the fishing pier is right next to us. And it is about to rain, so all the awnings are in. But look at that view. Almost all the sites have water views. There's a couple of the first sites that not quite so good, but all the sites were beautiful views of the water. So I'm gonna go through that, kind of our experiences. A few little odd things about this park that I think are important for those that have never been, that you might want to know before you go. The first thing is when you arrive, where the camp office is completely separate from where the campground is. That's not that unusual, except where the park office is, it's a very small little radius turnaround there. There's not really very much parking. So the way they would prefer you to check in, rather than bring your camper into around that park office, because if you have a big rig, it's going to be tight and you may not be able to make that turn, is to go ahead and once you get there, go to your site, set up at your site, and then come back over to the office to check in. The lady was actually walking in as we were pulling up, and she said, "Don't get out. I'll bring you your stuff." And they brought this nice little packet of information. There's multiple pages here. First thing on the front is a map. It kind of shows the way around the lake, and then there's a lot of information in here about the various different things that you can do on the lake, the history, and then also they're big on letting people know about the alligators. There are lots of signs about alligators here. So apparently we're here in the first week in February, so we're not too awful worried about seeing active alligators, but apparently there must be a big issue there. And because of that, there's no swimming in this lake. So that's an important thing to know. If you're coming in the summer, don't expect to hop in for a quick swim. That is highly, highly, highly discouraged. And you want to make sure you keep your dogs on a leash tight, not one of those retractable ones where they can get a little further away, because the alligator will take advantage of them really fast. There is apparently a lot of good fishing here. So you can rent kayaks, canoes, those little hydrocycles. They have all that here to rent, or you can bring your own. There's a little boat ramp between the road and the campground where you can put your boat in. I think there is a limit on horsepower, so you can't have a speedboat out there, but you can have a little trolling motor or something like that to putt around on the lake. The park has actually kind of got some neat history to it. There was a gentleman, and I don't remember his name, but there was a gentleman that settled this area. He came from North Carolina right after the Revolutionary War, decided that he wanted to build a grist mill. So he dammed up the river and put this grist mill there. The grist mill is still there, so it's really kind of a neat piece of history. Apparently throughout the year they have different events where they will fire up the grist mill and show it off for demonstrations, which I think is really amazing. And just down the road there's a settlement called Wartham. That was the same time these guys were kind of settling the area. Neat historic town there. Apparently one of the oldest jails in Georgia is there in the old Aaron Burr jail. The bathhouse is really, really nice, but I didn't carry the camera up there because it's a hike. That's the one drawback, especially where we are at Site 20. We're the furthest away from that bathhouse, and it's a long ways. I imagine even some of those a little further down, there's not really a way to get there through the woods. So you kind of got to take the road around. I wish they would put in a walkway or a pathway through the woods so that you didn't have to walk that far around. It's nice when you get there, but just know that it's a bit of a hike. And there's not a lot of parking up there. There's 2 handicap spots, and that's where the hosts are. So I think that's another issue that I think they may need to try and address, is putting some parking up there because it's so far. There's just that one bathhouse. They ought to put a couple parking spots up there so people can drive up to that parking area. As I mentioned, the hosts kind of sit up there on the top of that hill. They have firewood, and then the store also has some, your typical store stuff, t-shirts, hats, stickers, and then that's where you rent the things like the kayaks and the hydrocycles. And then as you go kind of around by there, there's some by the office area. There's also some hiking trails over there. Kind of walk along the edge of the lake. So I think those are something we would have rather done if it hadn't been raining, if I didn't have to spend time working on the camper, and if Clara had been feeling better. I think this is one we're going to really want to get back to. The sights looked amazing and beautiful, looking out over the water. I just wish things would have worked out a little better for us, and we could have actually enjoyed it a little bit more, but we still made the best of it. We still enjoyed it, and that's just part of camping, and the same kind of things happen at home, so you just learn to adjust. So I hope you get a chance to go check out Hamburg State Park. Make some comments below if you've had an experience there. Tell us what you liked so that when we go back, we can make sure we do that on our next trip. Thanks for watching.